Hello and welcome to another cooking with curry session, and tonight we're going to do spicy meatballs. Let's go through the ingredients that we've got. We've got some pepper here, we've got some salt, we've got some dried flake chilli. You could of course use some other herbs if you wanted to, such as chopped rosemary if you didn't want it hot and spicy. You could use fresh chilies if you wanted to. And we've also got some Italian seasoning, which is just basically dried basil, oregano, a little bit of rosemary and a little bit of chilli, just out of an instant can thing. The sauce of beef, you can use minced beef, probably about half a kilo is enough. If you're going to do a small portion, then 250 grams. I'm actually using some leftover quarter pounders that are in the freezer because I'm not going to have a barbecue before the end of the year and I really need to use the beef up. So those are your dried herbs with your beef. You're going to need some olive oil. More importantly, we're going to need some flour later on for drying the meatballs off before we fry them. Some chopped tomatoes, tinned tomatoes, any sort of tomatoes. Chopped onion, doesn't have to be that finely chopped, can be rough cut. And also some chopped garlic. The garlic you could leave out as well if you wanted it to be less garlicky. If you wanted to try something else, you could put a little bit of coriander in there instead, just give it a slightly different flavour. Right, important piece of equipment, mixing bowl. So into the mixing bowl we are going to put all of our chopped onion, we're going to put our garlic, we're going to put basically all of the ingredients in there. We're going to put the leftover hamburgers in there, all of the dry spices and everything, salts, black pepper, everything else is going to go into the mixing bowl. Once it's in the mixing bowl, we're just basically going to make a start mixing it and mix it with our hands. Right, into the mixture we're going to put a drop of olive oil, and we're also going to put some of this flour that I've got. We're just going to put a little pinch of the flour into the meatballs just to bind it all together. Once we've done that, we can carry on mixing it and make the mixture really smooth. Make sure all the onions, the garlic, all the herbs and everything are really well infused into the meat. Once all the meat's mixed, get the mixture, make some small sized meatballs. And what you want to do with these is you want to roll them in the flour. And this is so that when we come to fry them, they're not going to stick to the bottom of the pan. The flour is actually a really great way of stopping them from sticking, and you won't actually even notice it's there. So we're going to do that with the whole of the mixture, and we're just going to leave them on the side on a chopping board to come back to when we cook them. Okay, now that the meatballs have all been rolled out, they've been dipped in the flour to stop them from sticking. What we're going to do is we're going to take some of the olive oil, and we're going to put I would say probably fairly large amounts of olive oil into the pan to fry the meatballs off on. We're going to use this on a medium heat, and we're going to heat the pan up a little bit, and then what we'll do is we'll put the meatballs in, and we'll just slowly let them cook away. We want to cook them so that they're just going golden brown. Turn them all over, and then after that what we'll do is we'll add in the tomato sauce, which that'll add in plenty of colour, give a nice rich sauce once it reduces down to make the meatball dish really tasty. At the same time that we're putting the meatballs on to start cooking, it's probably a good time to put your pasta or your rice on, because it'll probably take roughly about the same amount of time for the rice to cook, boil and for you to drain off. The meatballs should be ready by about the same time, so there's no point in having the meatballs ready if the dishes that you're accompanying them with are not ready at the same time. You've got to have the timing crucial with the cooking. With the meatballs, they're now cooking away in the pan quite nicely. One of the best tips that I think I could give you is if you've got a pan that's nice and hot, the oil will stop it from sticking as long as you've used plenty of it. Don't start turning the meatballs, because what will happen is the flour will start dissolving in the oil, and then they'll start sticking to the bottom of the pan. So once you've got your oil up to temperature and the meatballs have started cooking, just leave them until you're ready to start turning them over. The meatballs have been in there a few minutes now, and what I'm doing is just starting to turn them over gradually. I'll just turn them over onto some of the uncooked side, and then I'll just leave them again, because if we start stirring them, start chasing them around the pan with the tongs, what happens is the flour will start going all mushy, and you won't end up with a nice crispy topping on the meatballs. So we just turn them all over onto the uncooked side, and then we'll just give the pan a little shake just to make sure that they're not sticking. We'll carry on cooking them for a few more minutes. Right, the meatballs have now started to take on a really nice deep caramelly colour. As you can see, some of the onions have started to fall off the meatballs. That's not a bad thing, and it's also a really crucial part of the sauce, because what happens next is the tin of chopped tomatoes we've got, we add that straight into the dish of meatballs, keep it on the same temperature, and then we cook this with the lid off so that the tomatoes then reduce down and form a lovely thick sauce. But for it to reduce down, you do actually need the onions in there, otherwise the sauce will stay quite thin. So having the onions fall off the meatballs isn't a bad thing. So it gives a really nice texture to the sauce and everything. So we've tipped the chopped tomatoes in there, and then what we're going to do is we're just going to leave it on the same heat, leave it open, and maybe turn the heat down a little bit and just leave it to the sauce just reduces down, and all of the moisture, all of the water basically evaporates. Then what happens is the sauce will thicken up, and it'll be really nice. As we can see now, the sauce is starting to reduce, starting to thicken up a little bit. The meatballs will start to absorb a little bit of the moisture as well from the tomatoes and everything, so it'll turn out to be a really nice sauce. If you want to give your rice that's on the go a little bit of flavour, what you can do is the tongs that you've been stirring your meatballs, or your wooden spoon or whatever you've been using, you can stir your rice with those as well, and just give the rice a little bit of flavour, take away from the blandness, and put a little bit of herbs, a little bit of flavouring into the rice as well, which is quite nice. One of the best tips for doing the meatballs is that when we've been cooking them, the pan will get a little bit caramelised, a little bit crispy and a little bit crusty around the edges. Tipping the tomatoes in isn't really a bad thing, because what it does is it washes off all that flavouring, puts it into the sauce, and it gives a really nice flavour and everything to the sauce, and also it cleans your pan for free, so there you go. Right, here's a really good tip for cooking rice. What I've done is the rice is finished boiling, and we're just going to leave the rice on the hob that it's been cooking on in the pan after we've drained it off. Leave it for about 5 minutes. What will happen is it'll steam, the extra moisture from the rice will evaporate, and it'll leave you nice, really fluffy rice. Okay, the meatballs are finally finished reducing now. The consistency of the sauce is quite thick, as you can see. Lovely colour, lovely flavour, lovely texture and everything, now that the onions and all the herbs have infused into the tomato sauce. We've tipped out the rice now, so what we'll do is we'll serve up the meatballs, and the easiest way to do this is literally just get the pan and just tip out probably about 5 or 6, and then I'm going to keep some of those for tomorrow, and then we've got basically a serving there for one meal, and got some meatballs ready to serve up and eat. Okay, so here's the finished dish. What I've done is I've served that up, and the remaining meatballs I've put into a small bowl. We'll go through the frequently asked questions, because everybody's always got a question regarding on what do I do with the meatballs, how do you keep them, will they freeze, things like that. Best way to keep the meatballs is once they've cooled, put a piece of cling film over the top, stick them in the fridge. They'll keep there quite happily for probably 2, 3, 4 days. Best way to reheat them, I would say, is probably the microwave. They store quite well, so you find that if you microwave them, you don't lose too much moisture in them, whereas if you stick them back in a pan, you reheat them, you're going to be drying out what is a really good sauce, whereas a microwave, as long as you reheat them and they're covered, then they'll rehydrate in the sauce that's already there. Freezing them, yes, you can do that, but only if the minced beef that you've been using in the meatballs to start off with wasn't frozen. So you have to use fresh beef. You can freeze them once. If the beef you've been using has been defrosted from frozen, keep them in the fridge, yes, by all means, but no, don't refreeze them. If you've used fresh beef, then yes, you can refreeze them and they'll store quite well. You can divide them up into portions, store them, and then you can reheat them using a microwave from frozen. Meatballs are a really, really good meal because you can, do some for dinner and then you can freeze them or keep them in a storage container and then bring some to work the next day. And just to prove that the pan that I used is still in good order after frying the meatballs and everything and the tomato sauce, it's been washed, lightly washed afterwards. No, the pan's not knackered, and thanks for another Cooking with Curry.